most pessimistic and the do nothing scenario. Your economics will be something between these two. So either an optimistic or a pessimistic approach. We make several cases, we compare them on the same plot, we compare them on the same platform and get how much we need to invest going forward on this particular well or on this particular field. Okay, so this is what you can do using these techniques which I mentioned. I also talked about that you can do a nodal analysis or run a lot of sensitivities, what we most popularly call as production optimization, if you would have heard that term. So this is how a production optimization exercise looks like. So this is oil rate on the y-axis, water cut on the x-axis. What I'm doing here is I'm selecting what tubing I should choose for my particular well. With an increasing tubing size, the cost is also increased, right? So if I don't get a significant amount of increased flow rate in a 4 and 3 inch tubing, I would better go with a 3 inch one than a 4 inch one because that's costlier.
Yes, sir.
Are we awake?
Yes.
Right? So this is a lot of sensitivities that you can do, and also estimate that when I approach a water cut of say 50%, so 50% water cut, meaning that your field is almost mature. What are the rates that you're going to get? With this 3 inch tubing, you are getting something around close to 3,000 barrels. With 4 inch tubing, you get something around 8,500 barrels. I now need to estimate that this incremental 4,000 barrels that I get from 4 inch tubing over a period of time, I also know when I will be reaching the 50% water cut mark. I now need to estimate how much do I invest. $4,000 multiplied by the dollar rate, which is like $100 a barrel, into 5 years would give me what I will make. What I will invest, I know that with the pipe of the cost, with the cost of the installation, with the cost of the operations, with the cost of the crew. I can make an estimate of will I go with 4 inch or 3.5 or 3. So this is all I have for the presentation. There will be a couple of questions being asked from your side. At the end of Ankit's presentation, we have a small quiz for you guys, not to evaluate you, but just because Vaibhav has got a couple of goodies for you, just to distribute that. Right? So any questions you have, this is the time you can ask.
Hello, sir. So in the P by Z material balance of gas that you showed, you had a very scattered data.
Yeah.
So sir, I want to ask, in what is the factor that you choose to
Okay,
decide
so
the best fit?
good question. So certainly when you do a P by Z analysis for the entire field, an entire field, I mean, consider this rectangular volume to be your entire field area. And I have a couple of faults here. You understand what a fault is? Fault is a barrier that doesn't allow the pressure to communicate from one compartment to the other. So consider it to be a wall in this room. So if I have a fault like this, and that is the next compartment, a well drilled here will show me different trends of production compared to the well that is on the other side. If I consider that the fault is sealing, sealing means it doesn't allow the flow to take place across it. In case the fault is transmissible, yes, you can have a signature like that. So what you do then is, when you're making it, we never make it for the entire field. What we do is we make it for compartments. We call it pools or sands. So if you make it for a pool, so okay, if you see this particular region, this slightly shows you a better trend, right, compared to these ones. So I would be forecasting for these wells separately and these wells separately. They are almost stable, as I can see, with respect to the pressure, and the pressure is very, very high with the cumulative that I have produced. So always when you go for a gas forecast, you need to make sure that you're forecasting for wells that are into the same pool, into the same pressure decline trends.
So in the last slide of Q versus water cut.
Okay, this one.
In this we are deciding the tubing size.
Yes.
So are we deciding here, or are we authenticating that with the TPR from which we already decide the size of the tubing? Like
okay, so this is okay. Yeah, complete, please.
TPR, that is tubing performance relation, that is formed first, or this comes first?
Okay, so this is, it's not like the chicken or the egg who comes first. It's about what you do at this particular stage and time. So if I have a well that I'm going to drill maybe tomorrow, I need to estimate what size of tubing will I be installing. Or maybe if you have a well that's already producing, you might be interested to see what will be the effect if I change the size of the tubing. The tubing can be retrieved and changed, right? So here what I'm doing is, this is not a nodal analysis plot. This is a performance plot, which is most popularly called as the system analysis. So when Ankit comes up for his presentation, he'll be showing you a lot of scenarios in terms of how the declining pressure affects your production rate, how the increasing water cut value affects your results, or how the increasing GOR values affects your results. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to estimate that as I start increasing water cut, what will be the tubing size that will be the best for my well. Maybe when I reach 45% water cut, a 3.5 inch tubing reinstallation might be a very, very economic job with respect to the kind of recoveries I have. Smaller tubing means high frictional pressure losses. So all the losses, Ankit will talk about that.
So are we saying that instead of TPR, if we want to drill a well today itself, so we go system analysis is better than that?
System analysis would involve an intersection of IPR and the tubing head performance curve.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, you'll see in the next slide how Ankit explains so what happens in a nodal analysis, you have an IPR, you have a tubing head performance curve. What you do is you select the intersection and then you plot. For a particular well, for a particular reservoir, you cannot have multiple nodal analysis on the same time. Nodal analysis, there can only be one node at a time. But if you're considering a lot of scenarios, all you need to do is a system analysis. So we'll see that going forward. So this is an intersection from the inflow and the outflow curve. This is the entire performance plot. So every point gives you the intersection. So this is a node, this is a node, this is a node, right? That way. So this is something else which you haven't studied in your books, so it looks a bit different.
Also, that would depend upon, like, if we have a smaller diameter pipe, the pressure will be more, with which the flow will be coming to the surface.
Okay.
So that would be a better.
There are lots of criteria.
Okay,
Lots
so
of different relations are there. It's not just one single thing that you do. There are various other features also that you have to take case.
Next
Joshi
question.
is right. We'll go in detail.
Okay, so next presentation, Ankit will talk about all the pressure losses that takes place. Just to answer your question in brief, in case you have a smaller diameter tubing, your losses would be higher. Your friction losses would be higher, right? It's F rho V square. So the velocity of the fluid is a direct function of 2 to the power squared is a direct function of the pressure drop that you have. So every point in time, a reservoir engineer or a production engineer has to make a write-off between the additional pressure losses that he occurs with respect to the liquid that he is unloading. So if you are developing very, very higher pressure drops within the tubing itself, your THP requirements might not be met. Why do you need to meet the THP requirement is because in case you have a separator operating at 100 psi, you need, and your flow line pressure losses, the flow line that leads from the well to the separator has additional pressure loss of 50 psi, you need to maintain certainly above 150 psi of CHP.